right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Yes, we're really excited about this day. Very excited about this day. So, welcome to Fordham, the Valley School of Business and the Building Career in Anthropology Conference. We have an exciting full day for you. I first want to extend some heartfelt thanks to our school, our business school dean, Dr. Robert Jolie, and to our marketing area chair, Professor Mohammed Nijad, who will speak in a minute, for encouraging us to hold these types of conferences here. It's really great. When I came here to Valley 10 years ago from industry, as an anthropologist myself, I thought, what kind of welcoming will we have here? Well, we held EPIC in 2014. We held EPIC conference here. My colleague Bob Maurice and I worked on a business anthropology summit in 2019 for the webinar. Okay, speaking to the mic. So we held a conference, business anthropology summit in 2019, and then we're holding this building careers in anthropology conference today. So this also extends with the Fordham, Cura Personalis, care for the whole person, which is really kind of neat part of the Jesuit tradition, as well as social justice. So it's encouraged these types of programs that we extend out, help others, and have this kind of emphasis here. And it's a very welcoming place for anthropology. Here we are at a business school. I also want to say that you all will be exploring some of these ideas today of where you can work, not only in anthropology departments, but in business schools like this, in design schools, in engineering schools, and law schools. There are a number of academic positions where anthropologists work, and it's very exciting to extend anthropology as a discipline into these other schools and areas. So I would like to, at this point, have our marketing area chair, Professor Mohammed Nijad, come up and say a few words, and I'll pass it over to him.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Careers in Anthropology conference and to Fordham University's Gabelli School of Business. The way that we do our day-to-day activities, the way that we interact with others, the way that we shop, the way that businesses do their work has been significantly changed in the past few years, past few decades. Any period of time that we think about it, it has been changing on a constant basis. And so the careers that needs to serve these purposes have also evolved. A couple of years back, we conducted a project at the marketing area where we decided to map the careers in marketing. So we went to all of the job boards and we started monitoring them, summarizing them. It was a large-scale project, and the result is the careers in marketing brochure, which is in your pamphlets, and also a website that is publicly available. This is, I think, a information that needs to be shared with everyone. Now today, thanks to Professor Malafai, Dr. Briody, and all our esteemed speakers, you will have a lot of, there are a lot of informative sessions about careers in anthropology, how to succeed, up to, how to even do, plan your careers, do interviews, networking, and topics like that. So I'm gonna just share with you one thought, and that is a lot of opportunities exist in the intersections, in the borders of different disciplines. When you take your skills from one discipline to another one, and whether it's about the knowledge, whether it's about the methods, about the approaches, and you solve the problems in that other discipline or that other area. So keep your options open, think about where you can contribute the most, and I wish you a very, very productive day and a great conference. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Briody, and I am so happy to be here. This is so great. I'm glad you're here. I think that we're going to have a terrific day. Since I have a lot to say, I'm going to go to the podium. And can I turn this off and then just repeat this? Or shall I'll just do it like this.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, so first, what I would like to do is thank some people. And I have 5 different people I want to thank. So the first one is Dr. Nejad. And what I want to say is that he got right behind this concept of having the Building Careers in Anthropology conference. And if it weren't for him, we would not be here today. So we appreciate what you did. You gave us this amazing space and this opportunity. And I think that we're the first in-person group since COVID. So that's a pretty astounding thing too. I think you're going to change a lot of lives today. So thank you for that. My next person to thank is Tim Malafite. Tim and I go way back. This conference was fully his idea. So this is how it happened. He called me somewhere around November, December, and he just announced that we were going to have a conference. And it was going to be at Fordham, and it was going to involve the Career Readiness Commission. And we can do this. We did it with the Business Anthropology Summit. Why can't we do it now? And so I'm trying to process this in this phone call. And I said, you know, Tim, putting on a conference is a lot of work. He said, no, it's going to be great. And we have Ida. Well, who's Ida? Well, you'll meet Ida. There she is, back in the green. So let me tell you a little bit about Ida, because she's our third person that I want to thank. She is Fordham's best kept secret. If anybody in the Big Apple knew about Ida, she would be recruited out of here in a split second. She actually served as our program manager. And for a conference of this size, you absolutely must have a program manager, because it's impossible to do it from a distance. And what she did was she organized everything: registrations, food, hotels, parking. I mean, you name it, she was in charge of it. This morning, we spent a lot of time looking for a white tub that had all of the Register of Professional Archaeologists swag and everything in it, and we couldn't find it. And it turned out it wasn't a white tub, it was a black suitcase. But at any rate, that's what Ida has been doing, is trying to keep everything together. And honestly, I couldn't keep up with her half the time. So I'm so appreciative of what you did. The next person I want to thank, and I'm not sure if she's here, is Simran. She's not here. Okay, well, Simran was Tim's graduate student. And what she did was we decided a good strategy would be to try to invite faculty and any students whose emails were on the university or college websites. So she went down and painstakingly put all of the emails into an Excel file. I think we need to frame that Excel file and put it up on a board somewhere, because it was an amazing piece of work. So that's what Simran did. And then finally, I want to thank my co-leader and partner in this work, Ryle Nolan, who's right here. We have been working on this commission only for 12 months. And it's amazing how far we've come. I think we've energized a movement. And I couldn't be more pleased. It's something that anthropology has needed in a structured way for a very long time. And I think it's finally here. And I think that by emphasizing the preparation of students while they are in school for any career that they're interested in, that's really what we need to be focusing on now. So much can be done in the programs. And so I think what we've done, you and I together, is to try to challenge people in university settings to think differently about employment, because that is the number one thing that students care about. It's the number one thing that faculty care about, and it's the number one thing that practitioners care about. So we need to be thinking about it and getting people oriented to it. So those are all my thank yous. Now I want to move on to logistics. just so that you will know what will happen today. You've already seen the agenda, you've got a copy of it, and Ida has produced a very large-scale version of it right outside by the registration desk. Each session will start and end promptly, or as promptly as we can manage it. We've allocated plenty of time for breaks, so you can catch up on your phone calls or whatever you have to do. Some of the presenters in the workshops will ask you to have a mask on, and there will be masks available. And that's basically to make them feel more comfortable and to make the people that you're with more comfortable. We will be very well fed. Again, thanks to Ida. It's going to be a very nice lunch, and then we'll have hors d'oeuvres at the end of the day. With a cash bar, so if you like alcohol, there will be alcohol. One thing I do need to tell you is that a few of our speakers came down with COVID this week. And so luckily 2 of them will be able to Zoom in. So you won't get a chance, unfortunately, to meet Patty Sunderland in person or Jillian Tett in person. And both of them are feeling absolutely terrible because they really did want to be here to meet with you. We apologize, but you know how it is. It's out of anyone's control. So just so that you know that in advance, they will be Zooming in. And now I want to recognize 3 of our sponsors who have booths right out here in the courtyard. And you're invited to visit those booths, as I think some of you have been doing already, and there's plenty of swag, so take it, because I've been told we're not bringing it home. So we got pins, we got bags, we got pins, etc. Well, actually I have a couple of pins on. And I would like to invite each of the sponsors to come up in turn and talk a little bit about their association and why they wanted to help sponsor this conference. I think it would be good for you to hear from these organizations, all of which feel very strongly about careers. And so the first person I'd like to invite up is Daniel Ginsberg, and Daniel is representing the American Anthropological Association.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Hi, everyone. I guess I could introduce myself. I'm Daniel. I work at a smallish nonprofit in DC that you might have heard of. It's called the American Anthropological Association. I have a background in linguistic anthropology and education, and I do program management, service design, evaluation research, all of which is to say, a lot of people, when you say AAA, they think of us as being this big conference that happens once a year, where people who are professors of anthropology give presentations about their research. And that's not what I do, and I work there. So we know that anthropology is bigger than that. If you come out and you see our swag, we've got pins and bookmarks and stuff that you should take home with you. And the tagline on all of that stuff is, it's all anthropology. It's just what I think Tim was saying, that it's in all of these other disciplines and also all of these other workplaces, but we do have so much value. And for us at the association, we look to find ways of bringing in people who are doing that work so that we can work together to think about who we are as anthropologists and what that matters to us to have this community and to be able to go out and do that good work everywhere. But because we have this sort of reputation of this big conference, sometimes we'll say, oh, I'm from the AAA, and people say, oh, I know what you do. You publish the American Anthropologist Journal. They don't want to write about what I do. It's like, we do so much more than that. But I'm so grateful for this commission, for the work that Elizabeth and Ryle have done, because it shows that there is so much energy in the community of professional anthropologists to come together and work together as anthropologists on issues of common concern, and to bring along the next generation to see that what we do as anthropologists has so much value. And so for us at AAA, it really has been a privilege and a pleasure to be able to support that work. So if you want to hear more about what we're doing specifically in AAA, we've got some cool stuff coming up. We've got a whole day of our conference This is going to include programming by and for people who work in diverse contexts of practice. If you want to come out and talk to me in the breaks about what that's going to look like, I'm glad to give more details. But really, I just wanted to use this time to say thank you to Elizabeth and Ryle and the commission for all of the work that you're doing, for all of the bringing people together. Basically, what an association is a bringing of people together. And so the more we can expand our networks, the stronger we all are together. So thank you.
And next up, we're going to have Ryle Nolan talk about the Society for Applied Anthropology.
Thank you and good morning. So my name is Ryle. It's an unusual name. It's Gaelic. I don't know why my parents gave me the name, but I went to Ireland a few years ago for the first time in my life. And I came back and my wife said, "So what was it like?" I said, "It was great." I said, "First time I've ever been in a place where everybody knew how to pronounce my name." But I'm not here to talk about that. I want to just talk very briefly about the Society for Applied Anthropology, SFAA. Patty Sunderland was going to give this little talk, and she is down with COVID, as Elizabeth told you. The society, though, is a real is a real asset, I think, to anthropology in many, many ways. It was founded in 1941, and its mission, written right into it, is promoting the study of human behavior and its application to contemporary issues and problems. And it's the second part of that sentence that I think characterizes the Society for Applied Anthropology. They're not just interested in studying people. They're interested in what can you do with what you know. And so it brings together people not just from anthropology, but from a range of social science disciplines, all of whom are interested in the same thing. How can we use what we know to make things better? It's a worldwide organization. We have international members. We have members, obviously, all over North America, Mexico, Canada. We have about 2,000 current members. Our conferences tend to be much smaller than many other big professional organizations. I think at Salt Lake, we had 1,400 or 1,500 people, which is about right. It's a very approachable conference. You get to see everybody. It's a great place to network. They're very friendly. They're all interested in the same sorts of things. And it's a mix of academics and practitioners. Lots of students, lots of early career people, lots of old timers like me. Their focus in recent years has been on promoting the discipline to students and helping them find their way through their careers. They have materials at the table for you to look at if you want, but I would also refer you to their two journals, Human Organization, which is the flagship journal, and Practicing Anthropology, which is a journal sort of directed very specifically at how you use your anthropology out in the world. I will say no more about it. It's a great organization. I would urge any of you who are not yet members to check it out. Their headquarters is down in Oklahoma City, of all places. And they're very friendly folks. It's a great conference. I hope I will see you all there next year in Cincinnati, which also has great food in addition to a very fine university. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I'll be talking to you a little bit later in more detail about other things. Bye.
It is becoming a theme, isn't it? And our last speaker is going to be Matt Emerson. Matt represents the Register of Professional Archaeologists.
Thank you, everybody. I will be brief. I'm just honored to be here. I speak for Trish Fernandez, who is our new president for the Register. And she was very glad to be part of this. And I thank Tim and Elizabeth and Ida for having us and making us feel so welcome. My name is Matt Emerson. I'm an archaeologist, professional archaeologist. I started my work in 1974. I guess that would make me about 100 years old right now. But I have had experiences and I work for the Register now as their chair of field schools, scholarships for students. That's an important one. Also for their CPE or continuing professional education. And I'm now the chair of their professional development group. What does that make me? It makes me kind of the answer man for the registrar. So I have lots of energy and I'm very happy to meet all of you later and talk to you about the Register. I'll give you a quick brief overview. We have 4,265 members spread over 16 countries. We have 2 designations, Registered Professional Archaeologist or ARPA, RPA, and also Registered Archaeologist or RA. It's very easy to join us. We're a volunteer organization. There are fees, of course, but our designations are based on your experience. The RAs are people who have a BA and 2 years of field experience or field and lab experience. And the ARPAs or the RPAs are people who have advanced degrees in MA or PhD, not necessarily in anthropology. It can be in any of the social sciences or related disciplines. And the whole idea is to bring us together, the other speakers that have mentioned about community and associations. And particularly Mr. Ginsburg was referencing bringing people together. And we have a code of conduct, we have a grievance procedures, we have standards of archaeological performance, and we agree to all these things, not only to protect each of us in the association and our register, but also to transmit that information to construction companies, to universities and colleges and other higher ed institutions, to granting agencies, to public governments, local, county, federal, and state. And what we do is we enrich archaeological experiences here in America by beginning with people who are just interested to people who are top of the field who do principal investigations for universities or say for organizations that build or change our environment. I've been very fortunate in my career. I started out as a digger in 1974. They told me, dig over there, I did. And then, of course, here later in my career, I have directed my own field schools. And as an archaeologist, I'm an historical archaeologist. And I've even now gone to Nigeria, where I've been doing ethnographic work to gain insights into many of the colonial situations that we have here in North America. And so I'm very excited to be here, and I'm ready for your questions, and I hope I can help. Thanks.
So I just have one last thing today to say. Well, not, I will say more than one last thing, but right now, I have 3 goals for you for this conference. Goal number 1, learning. So we're hoping that you're going to learn a lot. We've got plenary sessions and we've got workshops. So that's one goal. Goal number 2, networking. Meeting people at lunch, during the networking sessions, at hors d'oeuvres, you know, just go up and introduce yourselves. We're all friendly. This is not a time to be shy. So break out of your comfort zone and just extend your hand and you'll find people will want to talk to you. And the 3rd goal is have a lot of fun. So thank you so much for being here. And now let's see, what time is it?
5 after.
5 after, okay, we're only 5 minutes behind. So super. We're gonna go ahead and start then with the first plenary session.
Next slide.
Yes, so okay, right there. Yeah, that's fine. So how did you do it? Down arrow?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I did just introduce, you know, 3 of the sponsors, but I want to make sure you get it, that this whole event wouldn't have happened without Fordham and without its business school and specifically its marketing area. So anyway, got the Fordham logo up here and they've just been terrific. And then now I want to start with some of our key sponsors. First, of course, the American Anthropological Association that Daniel already spoke to you about. Second, Society for Applied Anthropology that Ryle spoke to you about. And third, COPA, which is a consortium of practicing and applied anthropology programs. So this is a group of departments, academic departments of anthropology, who get together mostly at the Society for Applied Anthropology meetings. They share information, you know, what are the various departments doing in terms of training students and so on. They too have been an important sponsor for today. And then we have the Register of Professional Archaeologists that Matt just spoke to you about. The National Association of Student Anthropologists. This group is a section of the American Anthropological Association, and they were super excited to recognize the important role that students play within the anthropological community. And then the last is my little consulting practice, which is called Cultural Keys. And by the way, those are my dad's keys. So I'm going to talk to you in the first plenary about what the commission has been doing during year one, this first 12 months. And then later in the day, Ryle will talk to you about what we think we might be doing in year two. So here's an outline of what I'll talk about. And let's just go right to the background. I'm not going to read everything that's on these slides. You can read faster than I can talk. But basically, I just want to let you know that we are pretty passionate about who we are and what we're doing. We want to help students be better prepared for the workplace of their choice, whatever it happens to be, and using their anthropology to make that workplace a better place and for them to feel that they have a greater impact on the world. And we're interested in all levels of anthropology students, from an associate's degree to a bachelor's to a master's to a PhD. It doesn't matter. At every level, you learn something about anthropology, and at every level, you can apply that knowledge and learning to some situation that you face in the workplace. So we had a number of different rationales for why we wanted to get this thing rolling. And I think the most important, I mentioned earlier, the importance of employment to people. That's how you put bread on the table. And I think it's something that we often forget when we're right in the middle of a course. We don't realize that there is a goal at the end of this, and that is to find some kind of work that will be satisfying. So that was one rationale. We personally don't feel that employment gets enough coverage in academic programs. And in addition to that, the second point is that we don't feel that students are getting enough knowledge of what is out there. What kind of work might they do in industry? Or if they choose to work in a nonprofit, or in a state government agency, or in a federal agency, or in an NGO, a non-governmental organization. What's the work? What does it mean? How can I use my anthropology? These are all questions that we don't feel are really being adequately covered. A third rationale for those of you who might be PhD students or recently completed a PhD, tenure track jobs are really diminishing. And it turns out that only 10% of new PhDs will even end up with a tenure track job. That means that 90% don't. And then of course, in order to teach at a university, you have to have a PhD. So if you have a master's, that's not going to cut it. So again, that was part of the rationale. And then the last and perhaps most important thing for academic institutions is that many of them are losing students to other parts of the university because they're not able to show the relevance of anthropology. They need some support in terms of better communicating what value anthropology brings to organizations. And so for all those reasons, we felt it was critical to start this commission. And I suppose you would say the trigger point for all this was that I was lucky enough to be selected as a Malinowski awardee, and I had to give an address. And as part of my address in 2021, I made those 2 points that, you know, as I said, we need much more emphasis on practice, what we call practice. In other words, the ability to work outside of an academic setting and make changes, plan and make changes to make things better, hopefully. And we also felt, I felt very strongly that this was not a topic that could be handled by a single anthropology association. It needed to be handled by the entire discipline. And as most of you know, anthropology has 4 subfields, but it also has a multitude of organizations or associations or societies or groups or whatever you want to call these entities. And to my way of thinking, I thought this is an anthropology problem. This is not an SFAA problem. This is not a AAA problem. This is not an RPA problem. This is anthropology's problem. So let's see if we can't bring everybody together behind this emphasis on careers and make it happen. And in the same light, those of us in the commission believe very strongly that theory and practice exist on a continuum. You've got theory at one end, you've got practice on the other end. Often in universities, the emphasis is solely on the theory. That's great. I'm a practitioner and I use theory in my work all the time. But I do practice as well. I'm solving problems. I'm trying to create solutions for clients or for other organizations that seek my help. And so we need to bring practice into the academy in a much more robust way than we're currently doing. And then just to reiterate again, how is this commission different? These are the 4 ways in which it's different. I think that we are the only one that has a really strong focus on careers. That's not to say that any of the others don't, they do, but ours is exclusively focused on careers. And you will see later on, if you stop by the booth, there are little business cards. And they have our website on them. And I refer you to that website, which is constantly changing and being updated, but it has lots of good career materials on it. These are all the associations that currently support our work. I mean, it's an amazing number. My husband looked at this and he said, he's an economist, and he said, do you know how many associations the economic people have? And I said, no. He said, we have 2. And so I thought that was kind of telling where I guess anthropologists have their own thing, but these are the array of associations that are supporting our work, not just at this conference, but in general. Oh, I guess the students just came in. That was the Student Association logo. And the other thing that I think is probably interesting and a little bit different about us is many do not necessarily see the value yet in the importance that we attach to careers. And so that's fine, but we want to work with those who do. So we are very eager to tap into networks of individual professors, individual students, individual practitioners who think that what we're doing is important. So that's enough about background. Now we're going to move to focus. How on earth did we work? Well, we came up with this 4-quadrant model, and people worked in groups that were part of the commission. These are all volunteers, people who have day jobs. And they did a bunch of things. First, we created a series of what we called work streams or projects on which people could work, and there ended up being 7 of those. by the end of the 12 months, which is this month. We compiled a bunch of existing materials related to professional development, applied anthropology, careers, and so on. And then for the people working in these 7 groups, we used rapid assessment techniques. Some of you who are students may be familiar with that phrase and others may not be, but basically it means rapid data collection. We're not trying to do a PhD dissertation here. We're trying to collect information quickly, good information from people that have that information to provide us, such as instructors or practitioners, who are our 2 main groups that we tapped into, and get them to help articulate some of the key insights that we ended up learning. Then we began developing new resources based on what we learned in the 7 groups, and you'll see some of the products of those later. And we're now in the process of testing out those new things that we've built. So here are the 7 groups. Each one I'm now going to talk about just very briefly to give you an idea of their range and what they accomplished. So the first group, whoops, oh, and we worked on Zoom, of course, nobody worked in person. First group was a group that used a Delphi survey technique, where in Delphi, you pull together people that you know something and who are willing to share that something with you, and you send them a couple of questions and you get the data back. So this is all done by email, basically. Ryle was the lead of this group, and he asked 2 questions, and the first was, these were all to practitioners, what was missing from your training that, number 1, would have helped you get a job, and number 2, would have helped you do your job, your current job? And you can see at least some of the responses. Networks and connections, job search strategy and skills, translating anthropology to industry. So those are the 3 top ones on the left. And on the right, what would have helped you do your job? Look at methods. Methods is number 1. And a lot of anthropology programs obviously teach some form of methods, but the practitioners are telling us they want way more, please. And so what did we learn from this first group? I think that we need to bolster the methods. People want different kinds of methods, not just the usual, learning how to do an interview or learning how to do participant observation. All those are great, but they want more advanced techniques and something, and of course, some of these are very highly specialized. Like GIS, for example, or Python, or name your favorite technique that you want to use. But nevertheless, they want to have access to that, because otherwise they have to learn it on the job. And it's just easier for them to learn it in a supportive environment in the university. Of all those skills that you saw up on the previous slide, they're typically not taught in classroom. Who knows how to be a program manager? You don't learn that in school necessarily, and yet that's essential when you are out in the workplace. You have to be able to run a project from start to finish, and you've got to keep people online, on time, on budget. I mean, it's a tricky thing, and there are things that we could be doing there, a need to do there, but are currently not doing there. We learned that practitioners are very focused on getting things done quickly. They don't want to mess around. They don't have 10 years to do a study. They may have 10 days. So they have to be quick, they have to be efficient, but at the same time, they have to have some robust degree of quality associated with their work. So they need tools that will help them do that. And so much of their work is digital or virtual. They have to be able to use those technologies. Another big one is that anthropologists don't typically talk about planned change. They talk about maybe theories of change a little bit, but not necessarily about models of change. Like if I want to change or try to change the culture of an organization, how do I do that? And those are some of the questions that practitioners encounter when they are out working, and yet we're not teaching that. Why aren't we teaching that? Well, there are reasons, but that is definitely needed. And then we need students to be much more self-directed in their knowledge. So that means teaching them how to learn on their own. So maybe they teach themselves how to use R. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But the point is they need to be able to teach themselves how to learn themselves. All right, now we move to group 2. Group 2 are the repository queens. So you have Kira and Claire, and they led this group. And their job was to figure out what are all the different materials out there that would be useful for students, for instructors, and for practitioners related to work, applied work, professionalization resources. How do you write a resume? I mean, all kinds of stuff. So they started pulling all these materials together. And when I say materials, I mean scholarly articles, of course, but they were also far beyond scholarly materials. Podcasts, client presentations that were anonymized, presentations that you would do at a conference, video. I mean, lots of different kinds of resources in many different formats. And so they pull all this stuff together, and then they categorized it into 4 groups. And I want to now see if I can just take you to the website, which is down at the base of the, okay, Tim, so I'm going to need some help.
Did we?
He said it was working, but I'm not sure how to. Oh, cool. Okay, so this is part of the Career Readiness Commission website. And if I want to advance, can I use the up arrow?
Yeah, it should work. You're on the website.
How do I make it go down? Oh, yeah, there it goes. Okay, so these are some of the materials. And look at that search bar. You can put in whatever you want in that search bar and it will pull it up. So you can put in a last name. You can put in the title of whatever the thing is if you happen to know the title. Anyway, everything is fully searchable. And this thing goes on and on. And now what they're doing is they're creating a tagging function. So for example, if you want to know everything that we've got related to resumes, you put the word resume in there. And now any podcast or article or whatever it is that has anything to do with resumes should pull up. It's not the tag, they're just about done with it. So it's not quite there yet. Currently we have 265 resources. We are not there yet. We are partly there. And so the next phase will be to bring in many more materials, again, from all 4 subfields. So if you are a biological anthropologist or have an interest in that, we will have, you know, a lot of stuff related to that in the upcoming months. You're a linguistic anthropologist, same thing. So, okay, now I got to go back. So I'm sorry.
Click on.
And the name of the website, as you'll see, is Anthro Career Ready. Yeah, and yeah, that's fine. anthrocareerready.net. And I remember net because it's network of people. Okay, group 3, and we have Jennifer right here. Jennifer is the leader of this group, and she was interested in looking to see if there were differences in practitioners in the expectations of practitioners across work sectors. So for example, if you worked in medical anthro somewhere, maybe you work in a hospital, or maybe you work for the VA, was your work substantially different than somebody who worked in a private sector corporation or somebody who worked in a nonprofit? And so that's what their work was about. And it turned out that actually there weren't as many differences as we expected. It turns out your anthropological skills and knowledge are pretty adaptable, and that workplaces basically, with your grounding in anthropology, you can pretty much work anywhere and you won't find huge differences in the expectations. The most important thing, I think, that came out of this particular group was that they developed a series of what we call tools. These are typically one-pagers, although you will see the one on the right-hand side has actually 2 pages, but these are like handouts and they are super cool. We have a stack of them outside, but you can also find them on the website. So this first one, with the magnifying glass, these are all the different roles that anthropologists hold right now. These are actual practitioners and their titles. And because we often hear, well, you can't find the word anthropologist in a job description. They don't say they want an anthropologist. Well, okay, so there are lots of other things. You might be called a strategist in an organization. You might be called a manager. There is anthropologists. I mean, there were a few people who went by anthropologists. So anyway, these one-page tools should be very handy. We've heard really good things about the one on the right, which basically translates, if you are an anthropologist, you would name this process or this topic in one way. You get into industry and they talk about it using different language, but it's essentially the same thing. So that it's like a translator. Now we move to group 4. Group 4 was basically interviewing instructors. And they wanted to know from the instructors, what have you tried to integrate into your anthropology program? And how did that go? In other words, did you meet resistance? Did it work out beautifully? Where along that continuum did it fall? And they, of course, found a mixed bag, that there were some programs where things went pretty well in what they tried to do. Let's say establish an internship program, for example, or to have a new course that emphasized application and practice. So all of that's great, but then we learned some lessons from these people. And what we noticed was that you have to build on what's positive, what's really good in your department, and reduce the emphasis on the negative, and then introduce some new factors. So for example, building on the positive, find better ways to connect with local practitioners. Bring them in as guest speakers. I mean, it's not a hard thing to do. Most practitioners will just be happy to come in and talk, even by Zoom. Find ways for advocating for tenure reform. I mean, that's a big one, but it needs to happen. Why is it if you are a practitioner, all of your practice work doesn't count towards tenure? That's something's wrong there. Next thing, to minimize the negative, many faculty members have not been exposed to practice because they've always been academics. Okay, that's fine. What can we do to enhance their learning? And then introducing new factors. What about the idea of linking up with other people who think like you do? Other faculty members, maybe at different universities, and you create kind of an invisible college and you share ideas and techniques. Or perhaps you discuss ways of building a really strong, robust program. Excuse me. Group 4 also had a class project associated with it. Susan Squires teaches at the University of North Texas, and she offered up her graduate class to the commission this past fall. And they did a variety of interviews for us, again, with instructors. And here's what they learned. If you have your department shares commitment to, oh, thank you, to anthropology and to practice, you will be much more successful than if you don't. If you have teaching faculty who have some level of experience in application and practice, you will do much better than if you don't, and so on. Excuse me, just one second. And that's for class of 11. And then the other emphasis that she had was on collaborating as widely as possible with the local community. So at UNT, they are always using class projects in their elective courses. And they have at least 4 electives, at least at the master's level. So each of those courses has a real client. Could be a local client, could be a national or international. So I worked with them on one for General Motors, but the previous year, their client was the American Red Cross. So it's a mixed bag, and they go to the client and they say, what is your problem? And the client says, oh, well, we have a problem in X, and that's what the students will work on. So they do interviews, they collect data online, and then they produce a lovely presentation back to the client, attempting to solve the client's problem. It works like a charm, and the students love it because they get a chance to work with each other, which is uncommon in anthropology. Mostly you work on your own term papers. This is an opportunity to bring the whole darn class together, and they know that the clock is ticking. That's the beauty of it. There's a deadline, and they have a real client, and that client is waiting to hear what you have to say. So it's a very interesting technique to use in the classroom. Groups 5 and 6 made some progress, but ran into some roadblocks. The one thing that Group 5 ended up doing was they came up with a bunch of resources now posted on our website, particularly for archaeologists, but that will fund work related to practice. And what Group 6 is doing, and we've kind of restarted it now, they're trying to figure out, is there a different platform we should be using for networking and for webinars, or can we use something like LinkedIn or Zoom? And Group 7, they're really about trying to figure out how to help students and professors talk about anthropology to people who don't know about anthropology. So here you can think of your grandmother. Okay, if you had to explain what anthropology was to your grandmother, would you know what to say? Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. But the point is that let's have it crisp, let's have it clear. Now you're talking to a prospective employer. Can you pull that off? Can you explain why anthropology is good for that workplace? Most of us can't do that very well. So they're developing role plays and other techniques that will help with that. The products. Okay, first the website. And Matt Arts is our webmaster, and he will be teaching at Fordham in the fall. Yay. The website has lots of good information. I've already mentioned the resources. I want to mention briefly the blog. We welcome blog posts from any of you, and would love to have you write up something. They tend to be short, about 750 words. It's a great way to start learning to write for a non-academic audience, and get your ideas out there. Our tools, we've already mentioned, but this is a different tool. This one here is on what kind of skills do you actually have? What are you proficient in? And then the ones in the middle are anthropology. The ones on the side, project and program work, your technical skills, your communication skills, your collaboration skills. And these are all the tools that we have. And then we had a recent workshop with instructors. And this was fascinating. We worked with them for what, 3 hours? And they came up with some ideas that we thought were pretty important. They also liked this idea of class projects and using methods to help students communicate better what it was to be an anthropologist. And you can see what they were focused on specifically in the table at the bottom. And then again, the class projects. The quote was by a student from Oregon State. We worked with the Oregon State undergraduates on a second class project. We did that the first quarter of this spring. And I just take a minute to read the quote because in some ways it's hard to read because this is somebody being very honest and really almost kind of desperate. Students want something that's not really there yet in a lot of places. And so how do we help them? That's really what we're about. How do we help the students? How do we help this next generation? And spreading the word. I think this is my last. So this is one of our meetings. I mean, we have a lot of people that attend these commission meetings and you all are welcome to join them. We don't have them often, once every 2 months. That's it. We stick pretty much to that and it's a way for us, and they're 1 hour. They take no more than 1 hour. And during that time, you get updated information on what's going on. And we usually introduce someone right at the end who talks about their perspective on what's happening in their world. And then on the odd month, we have a newsletter. So again, we have all of your emails, but we will, when we send out an evaluation form after the conference is over, we'll ask if you would like to be put on our master list. And if you want to be on that master list, you automatically get an invitation and the link to the meetings, and on the odd month you will get a newsletter. So it's just a nice way to keep up. We also have a LinkedIn page which you can join, super easy. Just go to LinkedIn and put in Career Readiness Commission. You can do that. And then on our website, there's a way under Contact, the tab Contact, just put in your email and name, and somehow magically I get your email and I add you to our master list. So we have been talking a lot, which is why my voice is so bad. We've presented at a lot of different Anthropology Association board meetings. We do conferences, podcasts, and the big news, most recent news is our session was accepted as what they call an executive session at the AAA meetings in Seattle in November. So we'll be talking there about the commission. And then we're here for today's conference. So we're delighted. Here are our emails. These slides and all the other slide decks that you see will be posted on the Career Readiness Commission website. So no need to rush to get the emails, but we do encourage you to hang out with us, contribute your talents, tell us what you're thinking, problems that you identify, and then we can try to help. You know, we've got lots of volunteers who are eager to help. They're student volunteers, they're practitioner volunteers, they're instructor volunteers. So thank you so much.